the expensive sorcery master is the nickname being bandied around. Not the he's definitely not a fan of the 1 mana sorceries, at least not the blue ones. Preordain, I know he liked to. Well, he didn't. He just does not like Preordain. But I'm kind of curious to see what he's playing here today. I know he. I'm very interested in seeing how he builds for the upcoming format. But for today, he may just be rocking the Callblade.
I wouldn't be surprised.
So, we are.
What's
Oh,
going
looks
on
like the
here.
players are already into the game. Okay, so it does appear to be Callblade on Sheheen's side of the board.
Okay, so he just fetched up a Sword of Feast and Famine. He's playing against Elliot Dicker's Vampires.
Obviously, a black-red version, which is the accepted version right now, accepted best version of Vampires right now. And of course, Sword of Feast and Famine is about one of the best cards you could play against Vampires. On Elliot's side of the board, he does have a Lava Claw Reaches alongside 2 Swamps, and a Pulse Tracker and a Colostria Highborn.
Now, Elliot really needs a removal spell for his Stoneforge Mystic here, and he has one, and maybe he's thinking about not playing it, but he needs to.
So it looks like Sheheen did play a Preordain. That's history right there. But he also looks to have played a Jace Speller, and I'm not sure if it was in play and died to some damage, or if it just... yeah, I think that's probably what happened. Highborn
Mirror
gets
Crusader.
in, but past the turn to
This card you
Sheheen.
don't see very often.
Sheheen drops a Mirror Crusader, yeah. I mean, I know some people were playing it.
Yeah, a lot of people were experimenting with like 2 to 3 copies, and some people were even so bold as to cut Hawk,
Right.
replace it with Mirror Crusader. That makes your deck a lot weaker to Jace, though, so I don't know if that's a good call.
Yeah, it is one of a number of creatures that fail the Jace test.
Yeah.
A test that most of these creatures won't have to take, and not in Standard anymore. They will not have to pass that test any longer. So a lot of these cards get a lot better. Phyrexian Obliterator is a big one that I know people have been talking about. That we do get to play because of Jace being gone. But anyway, not relevant in this game, at least not yet. Not until Elliot Dicker decides to drop a Phyrexian Obliterator, but kind of doubt that's going to happen.
Now I'm a bit confused here. I saw red in Elliot's hand, but he last turn he chose not to kill the Stoneforge Mystic. Sheheen did search for the Feast and Famine, but that almost certainly means that he has a Batterskull in his hand. So
Elliot decides to use his Lightning Bolt on the Mirren Crusader.
And he's going to run this Colostria Highborn into a Batterskull.
Yeah, so Colostria Highborn into the red zone. Sheheen vials out a Batterskull, and the Batterskull blocks the Highborn.
So Sheheen's going to shoot back up to 19 here, and Elliot can choose to pay a black to go to 21 and put Sheheen back down to 17.
I don't know if... I mean, unless he has something to kill the germ, I don't know if I like that. He has Manic Vandal, okay.
Ooh, nice.
So he baited Sheheen into dropping that Batterskull just so he could Manic Vandal it away. But
This does put him in a rough spot again now, because Sheheen can tap some mana main phase and
yeah,
just drop the sword into play.
which looks like exactly what's happening here.
And it's going to force Elliot to chump block with that Manic Vandal. Oh, I definitely play that sword and equip it, because I need a 4 toughness guy with Pro Black too.
For those of you just joining us, I'm Joey Pasco here with Jacob Van Lunen in Baltimore for the Star City Games Open Series. Watching Callblade's last stand here. Sheheen Soorani on the right, and Elliot Dicker on the left. We are actually in round 3, I believe, although the screen says round 1. Sheheen playing said Callblade against Callblade's recent nemesis, Black-Red Vampires. Black-Red Vampires typically has a pretty good matchup against Callblade and has won the last 2 standard open events. And now, Sheheen indeed does play the sword there.
But he does not choose to equip main phase. Well, this tells us a lot about his hand. Now, there are a lot of lines of play that Sheheen had on his turn that he did not take. So we have to ask ourselves why.
Right.
The only thing I can really think of is him having another Batter Skull in his hand. But it doesn't look like that's happening. So
Manic Vandal into the red zone. I mean, is he just afraid of a removal spell for that Mystic and wants to have the mana untapped to counter the removal spell?
Well, I mean, if he had the Sword of Feast and Famine on the Stoneforge Mystic...
Right, most removal's dead, but I mean, like, when he... Yeah. I'm thinking, you know, he... Did Elliot have any... No, Elliot didn't have any untapped mana. Never mind, okay.
So there has to be something.
Yeah, that is kind of odd. So it is another
a Batter Skull.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Definitely.
It seemed like it's all that it could have been. I'm surprised it didn't come in when Manic Vandal on the table.
For some reason, I thought Elliot had a mana untapped, so he was afraid of Dismember or something, but yeah, you're right, he was tapped out.
Right, now...
So, that is a healthy germ right there with a... And there's the Dismember, so... Yeah, the germ was holding a Batter Skull and a Sword of Feast and Famine, but, well, it attempted to grab the Sword of Feast and Famine, but Elliot responds with Dismember, and that will take care of the germ. So Sheheen now equips the Stoneforge Mystic with Sword of Feast and Famine and swings into the red zone where
it's going to put Elliot down to 18. Shaheen's going to get to untap all of his lands here, and Elliot's going to have to discard a card.
Yeah, and I don't know how many cards are in Elliot's hand, but it appears to be just one. Did he discard that?
He discarded the Verdant Catacombs, I believe.
So Sheheen now with all 5 lands untapped.
Now, I think Sheheen can pretty much lock this up by just equipping the Batter Skull onto the Stoneforge Mystic.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty safe play.
That's fine, too.
Goes with a Mirror Angel, yeah. Add some pressure to the board. Additional pressure, that is. Pass the turn back to Elliot. I believe Elliot's other card was a fetch land as well. It may have been another Verdant Catacombs. So, I think Pulse Tracker is the card he just drew this turn.
It's not great in this spot.
Not at all.
On Shaheen's next turn, Sheheen can equip the Sword of Feast and Famine onto the Emeria Angel, pay 3 mana, return the Batter Skull back to his hand.
Violet back out.
Yeah, attack with the Emeria Angel, and then re-violent a Batter Skull and still have 3 mana open to do whatever he pleases with it. So, it does not seem like the best
if he pays
spot.
3 to return it, he doesn't have that 3 mana. Right.
Oh no, because he could float the 3. He could pay the 3 before he attacks with the Feast and Famine.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I see what you mean. Sorry, yeah. Wasn't thinking about the Feast and Famine trigger there. So Lava Claw reaches. Coming across the red zone.
I like that play. And at this point, then, I think on Shaheen's turn, Sheheen is probably just equipping the Batter Skull. Oh, his opponent's tapped out?
Yeah, it looks like he pumped that Lava Claw reaches, but I don't know about that.
So you can just stick a... that just might be it.
Yeah.
He may have just won by accident.
Top deck Gideon, but taps 5. Batter Skull now in the hands of an Emeria Angel. And Emeria Angel, Stoneforge Mystic, both coming over.
Now Sheen's going to bounce back up to 18 here.
The Batter Skull, or the Emeria Angel gets in for, what is that, 8? 7? 7, yeah. And then the Stoneforge Mystic was blocked by the Manic Vandal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Going to game 2. Seems
Elliot packs it in.
seems right. Sheheen had such a controlled presence on the board, and a Gideon in hand, which Elliot didn't even know about. So, very, very strong. So Sheheen, just taking a look at his sideboard, I can see a Spellskite there. Flash Freeze.
Spellskite is very strong against the Vampire deck. I mean, it's really good against red decks in general. It's a wall. It makes your creatures immune to removal. It's just a very powerful spell. When I first saw it, I was very surprised by it. When I've been playing with it, I've always been very happy with it. I think it's one of those cards that's going to get a lot better.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how do you feel it goes in the future?
So in the current standard format, because of Stoneforge missing and Squadron Hawk, playing spot removal is not great.
Right.
You're forced to play these spot removal spells, but you're always losing value.
Shaheen's trying to show us something, but I didn't see what it was because the camera wasn't on him on the card. But we'll have to ask him maybe later, or can we find out what Sheheen, maybe tell the spotter or ask the spotter what Sheheen wanted to show us there. He's definitely trying to communicate to the booth. But go ahead, with Spellskite, what were you saying?
So I feel like Squadron Hawk, for example, makes just general spot removal spells a lot worse.
Right.
It's just not really a good idea to be trading like one card when they just free things for it. So you really need to come up with other answers like sword removal and things like that. But people aren't really going to play Squadron Hawk anymore. And a lot of people still say Squadron Hawk is good, but it's not. It needs Squadron Hawk really needs a Jace the Mind Sculptor or a Stoneforge Mystic to make it a lot better. It has great synergy with both spells, and the fact that its two best friends are leaving standard means it's probably going to go away with them.
Still seems good to pick up swords, but the problem is there's nothing to tutor up those swords any longer and file those in and things. So.
And I mean the swords, it's still very good at carrying them.
Yeah.
But in the future, like, it's going to be hard to find room for these things because you can't just rely on the 8 creatures. The whole reason it was good was it was these 4 cards that made it seem like you had way more than 8 guys in your deck.
Yeah, absolutely.
You would always just had things that you could just put out and put a sword on. But if you're not casting Stoneforge Mystics, then you're going to need to play a lot more creatures to make those swords good. And then you're going to have a ton of creatures in your deck, and you're not going to need to play 1/1s for 2 mana.
Right. So now we have word of what Sheheen wanted to show us. Did you see what it was? It doesn't say it now.
I did not see. What was it?
It was Elish Norn.
Ooh.
His one of in his sideboard. I'd love to see that in play. I think if that hits play, Elliot just scoops, right? I mean, I guess no. I mean, he could just remove it with something.
He needs to have multiple spells though to remove that thing.
Yeah, I mean,
it has 7 toughness.
It does. He needs something like Go for the Throat or Doomblade. Does Doomblade even see any play anymore? It's funny how little play Doomblade sees.
I don't think you can really play Doomblade with black-red vampires around because you're playing the removal spells like specifically to beat.
Yeah.
Like the aggro decks. Again, if you're like looking for cards against a deck like Cawblade, you would much rather just be playing cards like Divine Offering.
Right.
So I don't think people can really play Doomblade right now. I think Go for the Throat's definitely a better choice.
Yeah, so Go for the Throat will be the ideal answer to a resolved Elish Norn, but is Elliot even playing that? I mean, he's got the burn, he's got Dismember, both of which he would need.
Gatekeeper?
He would need both of those. Gatekeeper can work, yeah, but I mean, if Sheheen has anything else, a Squadron Hawk, a Stoneforge Mystic, I mean, Gatekeeper's not so great.
His Spellskites even.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing, Spellskite alongside the Elish Norn now requires more than 2 removal spells.
It's pretty rough when you have to sink that much into killing a Spellskite.
Yeah.
Of course, if Sheheen has an Elish Norn on the table, the last thing Elliot's going to be worried about is his Spellskite.
Right.
Well, maybe not. Maybe he won't be able to kill the Elish Norn because of the Spellskite.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm thinking. He's got to worry about that if he wants to deal with Elish Norn, unless Sheheen happens to be at 2 life and have no mana available, no blue mana available, then he's got to worry about Spellskite.
He does have Go for the Throat.
Okay, you saw it in that.
I just
I see
it.
it. I see. Yeah, it's at the bottom there. So I mean, Elish Norn's good just as a wrath effect, even if it doesn't stick around. Just being able to get that much card advantage by taking out several creatures at once and then a removal spell seems pretty good.
So he does have a go for the throw in his hand opener. Let's see what else he found.
Yeah, Doomblade also no good against the germs. Right, so that's another reason not to play. That's from Sorceries on Twitter. So Elliot leads with a swamp into a Vampire Lacerator, and Sheheen starts with the turn 1 Preordain. Sees Sun Titan and something else. I didn't see what the other card was.
Ooh, so he's got a big top end.
Yeah.
This is very much the opposite of what I was talking about before, with what Edgar likes to do with his Clawblade builds. But different types of players have different play styles.
Absolutely.
And as a result, they'll do better with different builds of different decks.
Yeah, Sheheen isn't known as the expensive sorcery master for playing low curves. And you can kind of count creatures as expensive sorceries. Unless they have flash. So he did draw that Sun Titan.
Elshorn's kind of like a sorcerer.
Yeah. So is Sun Titan. Right? So a second Lacerator for Elliot, and Sheheen has a turn 2 Stoneforge Mystic.
Now he grabs his Batter Skull, and his opponent has to dismember. Elliot's going to drop down to 15 here.
He's got that in mind.
Get rid of that Stoneforge Mystic. At the beginning of his turn, during his upkeep, those Lacerators are going to punish him a bit, and they're going to drop him down to 13. Then they'll bash Sheheen down to 14. Of course, Elliot has a Captain and Vampire. Oh, he does not. Okay.
So Elliot has a pretty good aggressive start here, but nothing to follow up on turn 3. Sheheen just adds the Celestial Colonnade to his side of the board and passes back to Elliot.
Now Elliot drops to 11 here. And I believe he's going to attack Sheheen down to 10.
And Celestial Purge from
Condemn
Sheheen.
will pop Elliot.
I think that was Celestial Purge, wasn't it? He tapped 2.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a full art Celestial Purge. Yeah.
Okay.
One that we haven't seen a lot of recently, really. Just hasn't. At least I feel like I haven't seen it very often. Now, is that that's another Lacerator? Yeah. So Sheheen manages to stay above 10 there, and adds the soon-to-be late great Jace the Mind Sculptor to the board, and he goes with the Brainstorm.
I like the Brainstorm there. It forces your opponent to aim both Lacerators at you. Deals some other 2. Alright, now
So, takes out Jace with the double Lacerator attack there. Passes back to Sheheen. Sheheen adds a 5th land, and here comes
Gideon Jura?
Is it going
that
to
be the best
Gideon?
card?
Oh, it's a hard cast Batter Skull. We do know that is what he grabbed with the Stoneforge Mystic, isn't that right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and a go for the throat for the Germ. No hesitation there from Elliot. Does not want Sheheen gaining more life, especially after all the work those Lacerators have done. So here come the double Lacerators.
And now that they've dropped Sheheen down to 8, they're no longer going to deal Elliot any damage.
Right.
So Shaheen's going to spend his turn. He's going to play a Mirror Crusader.
Yeah.
And I believe
Celestial
he's
Colonnade.
probably just going to pass now.
Right.
Is that the only red source Elliot has in play?
It appears so, yeah. Just
but he only
Dragon
has
Skull
3
Summit.
lands.
Yeah, just 3 lands. So Swamp, Dragon Skull Summit, and then he's got Lacerator. Sheheen on his side of the board has double Tectonic Edge, double Seachrome Coast, and double Colonnade. Right now, the only untapped sources he has are Seachrome Coast and a Tectonic Edge. But he's got a Batter Skull just hanging out, no Germ, and a Mirror Crusader. Both untapped. Well, Batter Skull tends to stay untapped.
Does Elliot have a burn spell for this Crusader?
I don't know. I kind of I don't see red in his hand. I think I saw another red land in his hand, possibly a Dragon Skull Summit. Maybe he does. It's hard to tell. I think if he does, we're going to see it pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
that's kind of why I think maybe he doesn't, because he didn't just go for it. But Sheheen does have Mana Leak mana available, so maybe he's just trying to play around the Mana Leak. Not that he can. So he just passes back to Sheheen. And I wonder, are we going to see Sun Titan bringing back a Stoneforge Mystic this turn?
That would be pretty good. That would be about the most exciting thing we could see.
Yeah, we know that he has the Sun Titan.
I would not be surprised by it either.
Yeah.
Now, if he casts the Sun Titan, then he's probably going to. So Elliot just packs it in.
Yeah.
And now that Mirror Crusader with a Batter Skull on it bashes pretty hard. He's taking 12-point chunks out of your opponent's life total and gaining you 12.
Yeah, that's a pretty sick,
nice
sick light swing, right?
Light swings.
So Sheheen takes round 3 against Elliot Dicker's Vampires deck, and he says, "Hey, look, this is what I showed the camera." Elish Norn. So mental misstep in Sheheen's deck. Seeing a little more standard play as the weeks go on.
That's another card I think is going to get much better in Standard. Again, for the same reason. Cheaper spot removal is going to get better again. Cards like Disfigure are going to be seen in main decks where they haven't been in a long time. Cards like Lightning Bolt are going to become a lot more common around. And obviously Lightning Bolt's always going to see play just how high the sheer power level is. But Lightning Bolt is definitely getting a lot better just because spot removal is getting a lot better.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's important that it hits is all those 1-mana removal spells we have. Now, it looks like we don't know if we're getting Duress back, but we do have Despise and Inquisition of Kozilek, at least until the fall. And of course, we have Duress until the fall, too, whether or not it comes back. But we have Distress. I would guess that we don't get Duress and Distress in M12. But it's interesting because Distress does get around that mental misstep thing. It's the Thoughtseize that costs 1 more, but it's an interesting card to have back. Did you see the artwork?
You just have to pay a Phyrexia mana with Thoughtseize.
Yeah,
in addition.
Exactly. it forces you to pay the Phyrexia mana. But did you see the artwork for that new Distress?
I've not.
It's really, I don't know if we can bring it up on the screen for the people that haven't seen it, but the new Distress artwork is some of the creepiest looking artwork I've ever seen. It's very
I like the creepy artwork.
It's very photorealistic, right? And it's got a guy kind of gripping his face, and then there's a little tiny version of the same guy. You can tell it's the same guy's face, crawling on his head. It's really, really weird. It reminds me of something. I want to say maybe Scalpalexis is what I'm thinking of. It's just one of those weird.
Ooh, Scalpalexis.
Remember Scalpalexis? That was.
I remember Scalpalexis.
That had some weird art too, where it was just a guy's head, with something
guy's head
on
with
it,
like an insect-looking thing attached to it.
Yeah, it reminded me of that. In the
a 1/5 flyer attached to his head.
Right.
What's he gonna do? Can't get rid of it.
What
he
else?
only has 2 power.
Yeah, it's very very strange artwork, but it's on the card gallery. It used to be called the visual spoiler. Now it's called the card gallery. But anyway, on Daily MTG you can find that if Matt hasn't found it yet. Matt, are you actually looking for that right now, or are you you're not even paying attention? Okay, I said something and it looked like you went to the research, playing Oracle over there. So anyway, yeah, you can find that on the site, and it's one of the artworks that was spoiled too in the Arcana. So we didn't know what the artwork was for at the time, but I know that was the one that was kind of a little bit jaw-dropping. But you mentioned Lightning Bolt,
and that gets a lot better.
Yeah, it's. I think we've gotten confirmation that it is not in M12. If it's not, if that's true, I'm pretty sure it is. But if it's not, how do you feel about us losing Lightning Bolt? We get Shock and Incinerate, 2 weaker spells. But we also get Grim Lavamancer, so it's a weird thing where we're losing Lightning Bolt.
Grim Lavamancer is probably better than Lightning Bolt, though.
Yeah, it's repeatable shock.
He's really good. Grim Lavamancer is probably going to change a lot, too. Change Standard a lot, also. So, Standard's going to have this, period of time before M12 comes out, this, short couple-week window, where, there's no way anybody's going to figure it out.
Right.
in
There's
the
no
span of
there's no time. And there's no reason to. Right. There's no incentive.
And there's not really much incentive to, other than being awesome.
Right. I mean, there's
but
it's just not as much incentive. Yeah.
Now the things I've noticed about the new format are another card that I really like is Nurok Commando.
Yeah.
Now Nurok Commando is a card that I've loved, that I've wanted to play with this card in a real deck for a very long time.
It's the 2/1 Shroud for blue 1, right? And it's when it deals damage, you draw a card.
You draw a card.
Okay.
And now, like, I've always liked Ophidian type creatures, and Ophidian type creature with Shroud seemed really, really good to me.
Yeah.
But he has 1 toughness, and in a world where people are playing Squadron Hawks,
no good.
It's just not going to happen. Mm-hmm. You really want to live the dream, and it's just never going to happen. But Squadron Hawk's going to be gone.
Right.
And
theoretically, it's going to be gone.
Sweet goggles.
Right. I mean, have you seen those things?
Have you seen those goggles?
And you can play. You could just play like, what is it? Nura Commando, Scroll Thief. You just play the Ophidian deck.
Yeah, you can just play tons of Ophidians and like cheap burn spells and counter magic.
You know what you do?
Nobody's ever beaten a deck like that.
You can build a legacy deck with Ophidian. What's the Merfolk or the Selkie, Cold-Eyed Selkie, Nurok Commando, Scroll Thief.
Just put our Aether Violet 3 and leave it there.
Elric, the new commander guy. Right? You have to play blue-green now, right? So you just just draw tons of cards. Just play Glimpse of Nature, why not? Because you're playing blue-green. You're playing tons of creatures, draw a bunch of cards, attack, draw more cards.
That new commander guy might be a real card in Legacy.
I think it is. That's actually the deck that I want. I have it on hold at a local shop, but.
Because you can just like vial in things like Dryad Arbors and things like that, and eventually you're just gonna play the Fidlord. That guy's ridiculous.
What?
I'm calling him Fidlord.
Yeah, I'm like, who is that? The Ophidian Lord? Is that what that is?
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, Elric, Spymaster of Trest. I think it's the real name.
Spymaster of Trest.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's an Elric or Eldrick. Close enough. You get it. Yeah, I mean, Chapin was talking about it. He actually was the one who drew my attention to it. I think I hadn't really looked that much at the Commander stuff, but in Denver, he was talking about how good it looks in the Legacy Elf combo deck because, why not have another Glimpse, like, on a stick, right? I mean, kind of another Glimpse, just another way to draw cards. You got, like, Regal Force, you got Glimpse of Nature, and now you get this guy.
You deal damage with them, though, right? You have to attack them?
Well, the thing is, like what Chapin was saying was, it's kind of like he has haste because you just play him and then attack with your other guys. It's whenever a creature you control deals damage, it turns all your other guys into Ophidian.
It lets you re-glimpse. It doesn't give you the initial glimpse.
Right.
I wouldn't put it in Elves personally. I've played a lot of Elves, but I think like any Vial type deck, it's got to be absurded.
I mean, I guess
these decks where you can gain an advantage while interacting with your opponent, because if he just ever touches the board and you have a board advantage, you can just press that so hard by just attacking.
Right. Well, I mean, that's a cool interaction right there. If you can like attack and they're like, you have like 3 guys or something attacking, they're like, you have no blocks, and you're like vial this guy in before damage, right? Yeah, draw 3 cards.
Ancestral.
Right. Seems really strong. But I mean, I think just as in the Elves decks. This isn't my thoughts. These are Chapin's thoughts. I happen to agree with them. But yeah, he was saying in the Elves decks that run things like Green Sun Zenith, you Zenith up the 1 of Elric and swing in with some guys and draw some cards. And
he's green, so you can Zenith him up and everything.
Yeah, so that's exciting. I mean, we're going to see a lot more Legacy tomorrow, and I guess there's a potential that we see that. Those guys are legal now.
He's legal now.
Yeah, that's really
and new
awesome.
cards legal in Legacy.
Yeah, it's so weird too. Like, it's this set that's new cards that you can't play in Standard, but you can play them in Legacy. It's just I don't think we've had that situation ever before. It's very strange.
I don't think we have either.
It's interesting though. I love it. Like, and I think that's one of the things. Commander's obviously selling so well.
Have you played with the new decks at all?
I haven't yet. I want to. But
I got to play a game with the commander who you give your permits
Political
to other people.
Puppets is, I think, the name of the deck,
Political
right? And
Puppets.
Zedru, I think, is the name of the commander,
right?
Yeah,
he's a kudu.
Yeah.
Beautiful horns. His Majesty on the Great Plains, But that deck is fun.
Yeah, I mean, it looks fun.
I like playing Commander. I also don't take... I don't like getting very competitive with Commander.
Right.
I like building, like, funny decks.
That seems fun. Like, I like the idea...
To get people.
like the idea of playing with the precon too. Like I'm not really big into Commander either, but like having a deck built for me, like sure, why not? I'll just play out of a precon. That seems fun. I mean, I just like playing Magic. I spent actually a couple years ago, Big Head Joe and my co-host for Yo MTG Taps. I went over his house and he was like, I have these. They had given him those like precon like decks that were like for new players. It was just a whole bunch of generic, one of each color, and we just sat there for like 4 hours playing those against each other. But anyway, we're gonna take a quick break right now,
okay,
and we'll be back in just about a half a minute. Okay, that's awesome. So. We're not live, right? They can't hear us. Okay. I kind of have to take a bathroom break if there's anybody that can step in, or should I just run? Okay. Okay, cool.
Okay, if you're gonna do that, then I'll step out and stretch and whatnot. Yeah. Okay. Hello, and welcome back to the Star City Games Open Series here in Baltimore, Maryland. We've had 3 rounds so far. We're in between the 3rd and 4th round, and so far we've seen some pretty interesting decks in the field. I said earlier that Jerry Colasso, Ben Weinberg, and a few others were playing a Caw-Blade deck. That it's a Twin Blade deck.
Right.
It's a mishmash of Splinter Twin and Caw-Blade archetypes, but it has cards like a Merry Angel on the sideboard. I saw a couple bolts in the main. I saw Gitaxian Probe in the main. Maybe 1 or 2 copies of those. He has Halimar Depths. Halimar Depths is
that's something
incredible.
I didn't expect, but it does seem really good in that kind of deck.
Drew Levin was actually saying that his opponent had dealt with 3 of his Deceiver Exarchs, and he had 2 Splinter Twins just stranded in hand. And at a very late stage of the game, he just drew a Halimar Depths, played it, saw the last Deceiver Exarch, put it on the top of his library, and